What's up, y'all? This is the 8th episode of the That and the Goose Audio Experience Digital Karma Deluxe Edition with your host, the original Karma Drop. And if I'm not the original, which I'm probably not the original, but I am original and I am the best, there's no discussion. It's tapped in with the best podcast on the planet, episode 8. So I'm just gonna jump in. I took a couple days off. I was originally intending to do the podcast every day, but sometimes things don't go as planned. I just had to take a couple days to get my mind straight and figure out what type of direction I want to take the podcast in. I had originally done this out of anger, and that's not bad. That's not bad. I could have done better in how I dialogued originally, but 2020. Hindsight is 2020, and it's 2026. So what that means is we're beyond 2020, we're beyond the hindsight, and now we're looking forward. And as far as this episode goes, before I say anything, if you haven't tuned in with the clothing lines, I got the number 1 clothing line out, and I got the number 2 clothing line out. Number 1 clothing line out is I got condoms for your opinions. Y'all check that link in bio. Number 2 clothing line is I got a knife for your life. And what I'm saying with that is I'm not promoting suicide. What I'm saying with that is allow the old you to die so that a better you can be born. So that you can have an elevated mindset, an elevated spirit, and an elevated whatever you feel inspired to do, to be. And so I really just hopped on here, no topic as usual. But I do have a co-host coming soon. So we're gonna keep things interesting with that because it gets uninteresting just being by myself. Originally, this was just it still is kind of like a therapy event session. I essentially do this just for me at the moment, and I allow people who watch to watch, and I just bring up whatever topics come to mind I see interesting. But so today I want to talk about, not want to, I do, but I am going to talk about just life, reflection. I haven't done too much reflection in a while, but tonight, over the last week, I've been stressed, man. I've been so stressed. I just been thinking, man, I got caught up the other day, fooling around giving someone a ride, man. I ain't gonna go too much into that. Just know, man, I got $5. It's always down the street. It's always down the street, man. Stuff be so stupid. It was on the 19th too. And so that coincides with one of the things that I find interesting, which is numerology. The 1 represent beginnings and the 9 represent endings. Essentially, it's the ending of an old perspective, an old interest, and the beginning of a new interest, in the sense that I'm no longer interested in, for lack of a better term, bullshit. For lack of a better term, bullshit. It's not, bullshit ain't something that you like to have in your life, but sometimes it's interesting. But at the same time, it's no longer interesting to me. Because you know, I'm about moving forward now. I'm about business. I'm a businessman now. Ooh, I've been a businessman before, but now I'm wholeheartedly into development. If you're not into developing whatever you got going on, you're lost just like I was for a while. Sometimes we get caught up in life. It be nonsense situations, nonsense encounters, and essentially all that, it repels me now. Looking back, I had a toxic relationship. Looking back, I had no focus on my finances. Looking back, it's still some things that I'm looking back at that I need to fix. Say, family relations. I ain't been too close. You understand? And you can never be too close. And in that sense. But one thing that I can say for sure is that over the last, I say some weeks, some months, I've developed my perspective so that I'm closer to God. And by being closer to God, I'm closer to myself. And so by being closer to myself, I understand what I want. I have standards for how I want my life to be. And now you will see things quite differently in a couple months from how you see them now. This is essentially a reconstruction time of my life, you know. Coming out of a long toxic relationship, being just around toxicity is horrible and it breaks you down, whether it be a long term or be a short term, whether it be random or be something, you know, you just know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, maybe I'm not explaining things the best. I know I'm not explaining things the best. I essentially hopped down here because I ain't been on a podcast in a while, and this is an aspect of my business. So there is no script. I'm just running off of my mind, whatever comes to mind. And so I know I'm not doing the best delivery, but I'm getting better and better by the day. And one thing that I can say is that I have changed the vibe of the podcast. Because originally it was a crash out episode. Somebody will probably find it entertaining. I don't know. I'm probably gonna scrap the original episodes of the podcast and have them archived and have them, I might release them again later on as sort of a, this is how this formed. Once everything is successful, because essentially none of this makes any sense to probably anybody. But what this is the foundation of something great. And don't nothing great make sense in the beginning. And so I have no shame in my game. I have no shame in my game. I'm just figuring things out. Hey, most people ain't got a podcast. Most people ain't got the number one clone line out. Most people ain't got the number two clone line out. Statistically speaking, hey, I'm delusional. But spiritually speaking, coming from my perspective, I have the best everything out. I even got the best cryptocurrency out. I'm laughing, but I'm so serious that it's funny. That's why I'm laughing. I'm so serious because right now, this is a time of growth, a time of letting go of the old and bringing in the new. I want to let go of the old me and bring in the new. And the aspects of the old me that I do like, I want to mature them, I want to grow them. You know, at the same, you know, two things can be true. What I'm saying by that is, you know, in life, sometimes we come to a point where we are finding ourselves. But at the same time, you look in the mirror, you know where you at. You know yourself. What you're doing is you're finding something, a better way to move about through life. And that's that. You gotta take some of the old. It's good and bad in everything. Everything is a yin and a yang. And none of this makes sense clearly. I could have done a better delivery. I probably should do a script on these episodes. But, hey, you live and you learn. This week of my life was an example of that. Just like the last week and the week before, and just the entirety of my life, and just like the entirety of your own life, you know. But as far as that goes, aside from that, what I am doing moving forward, I got a book coming. It's about my philosophy, my perspectives on life, how I view things. It'll be available on Patreon. Y'all can find that. I might even narrate it and you can listen to it as an audio, but I will do that. I absolutely will. Definitely with the second book because everything, I'm testing the waters with different things. Everything that I'm testing the waters with, I'm only going to get deeper and deeper and deeper. You understand? But book coming soon. As far as the clothing lines goes, I got the sweatpants coming. I got the jackets coming. I got samples on the way. They're coming in March 7th, around that time. And in a week or two from then, I will be going down to Atlanta and I'll be doing networking. As far as the clothing line goes, I got models locked in. Everything's in order. I'm just waiting on samples. That's on the order. And that's coming soon. So it ain't nothing but some fly stuff going on. And, I'm not doing too much cussing in this episode. I'm kind of in the spirit of just fasting. Fasting from toxicity. Toxicity is, I'm at a point in my life where toxicity, it repels me and I repel it, because now's the time for growth. You don't want to be stagnant, stuck in old ways, and you don't want to be moving in a negative manner, because that is quite trifling. But, so I just want to tap in on here. I'm going to cut the video short. This is going to be the end of the 8th episode. Y'all tap in with the 9th episode of the podcast coming soon. It won't be so long. And my setup is about ready. So, Daddy going to be on camera. And the whole world going to see the flyness that is the original Karma Drop. The best host on the planet. Ain't nobody got nothing on me. And this is just me hyping me up, because this is an energy from now and forever, because this is how you move when you're a businessman. You gotta hype yourself up, even when things look delusional to other people. Hey, if it's delusional, be delusional, because the money's coming. And I'm not doing none of this about some money. The products, as far as the sending goes, yeah, that's about money. But the delivery, essentially, I'm just changing the world. I'm changing the vibe. I got big visions for the podcast. I got big visions for the clothing lines. I got big visions for the cryptocurrency even. Because, I'm into all of that. And, I got big visions for the books. Ain't nothing I'm doing gonna be some nonsense. Everything gonna make sense in time. And so I'm tapping out. Y'all tap in with episode 9. Coming soon. Peace.